The modes of the major scale are great for helping you to write interesting and varied songs, but one of these modes is different. In fact, it's the worst mode for guitarists. In this video, I'm going to show you what this mode is, how you can use the chords in it to create progressions, and if there's anything that we can do to actually make it useful for writing on the guitar. The major scale, also known as the Ionian mode, has 7 notes. If we label each note with a number, you get the scale degrees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. It doesn't matter what the tonic note of our major scale is, it always has the scale degrees 1 to 7. For example, C major has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A and B with the 7 scale degrees previously mentioned. The major scale is useful as a point of reference for all other scales or modes. The focus of this video is the Locrian mode. It is also known as the 7th mode of the major scale. It has the scale degrees 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6 and flat 7. So C Locrian therefore has the notes C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat and B flat. To give you a feel for this mode, I'll play C Locrian up and down on the guitar. Underneath on the piano, I'll play the C minor 7 flat 5 chord to reinforce the sound. We'll learn a bit more about this chord later on. How would you describe the Locrian sound? Locrian has a confusing, unstable and wandering sound. It's looking for something stable, but never finds it. It has only 2 notes in common with the major scale, which explains why its sound is such a long way from the stability of the major sound. It can be useful to compare Locrian with the Phrygian mode. The Phrygian mode has the scale degrees 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So the only note of difference between Locrian and Phrygian is the flat 5 note. This note is extremely important in defining the Locrian sound. If we look at the chords in this mode, then we will understand why this is the case. You can use the notes from a scale or mode to create a series of chords. These chords are what make up a key if you construct them from the major or natural minor scales. Doing this with the modes gives you what is called a tonality. This is just a group of chords that work together to create the sound of a particular mode. The most basic chords are constructed with 3 notes and are called triads. They will be either major, minor, diminished or augmented. Let's use the C Locrian mode we saw earlier to construct our chords. To create our first chord, we take the first note, which is C, and then skip a note, which takes us to E flat, and then skip a note from E flat, which gets us to G flat. These 3 notes will create a triad. In this case, C, E flat and G flat create C diminished. This is our 1 chord. Then we move on to the next note and start again. In C Locrian, the next note is D flat. If we skip a note from D flat, we have F. Skip a note from F and we get to A flat. D flat, F and A flat create a D flat major chord. This becomes our flat 2 chord. You can then repeat the process for the remaining notes of the Locrian mode to generate a set of 7 chords. Note how I have repeated the notes twice here to make constructing the chords easier to visualise. This gives you the following chords: 1 C diminished, flat 2 D flat major, flat 3 E flat minor, 4 F minor, flat 5 G flat major, flat 6 A flat major and flat 7 B flat minor. I hope you can see the big problem with Locrian now. The 1 chord is a diminished chord. This presents us with an almost impossible task. The tonic 1 chord should be the most stable and secure part of any tonality or key. But when this is a diminished chord, we have a problem. Diminished chords are inherently unstable and they want to resolve to other chords. So when this is the most important chord in a tonality, then the whole thing doesn't settle. The other problem with Locrian is the lack of a perfect 5th. Instead, we have a flat 5th or diminished 5th. This is unstable, dark and tense and feels like it wants to resolve. As such, it makes it very hard to write melodies or solos that sound coherent or pleasing. This is why it is extremely rare to find songs written purely in Locrian. Let's look at some Locrian progressions now to fully appreciate why it is avoided. We have seen why the diminished 5th has such a big impact on Locrian. So let's dive headfirst into this by writing a progression which uses all the chords containing this note: 1, flat 3 and flat 5. I'm going to use the tonality of B Locrian to provide the examples. You might recognise the chords as they are the same as the C major key. That's because these 2 are relatives. Writing songs on guitar can be an isolating experience, but you are not alone. Every week I send a free newsletter to thousands of guitarists, helping them with their songwriting. You can join them by visiting writeonguitar.com and signing up today. Link is also in the description. In the last example, we heard how awkward and tense this simple Locrian progression sounded, and I highlighted another issue with Locrian. Every Locrian tonality shares its set of chords with a major key. As we saw, B Locrian has its relative with the C major key, and as you can see on screen, this means that the 7 to 1 change in C major is the same as the 1 to flat 2 change in B Locrian. In a major key, the 7 diminished chord wants to strongly resolve to the major 1 chord. If I play the 1 to flat 2 change, the strength of the resolution will make the listener feel like they are in a major key. Listen to this now in B Locrian. Locrian clearly has its problems. One thing you can attempt to dilute this is by playing the tonic chord as a minor 7 flat 5. This is also known as a half diminished chord. This involves adding a flat 7 note to a diminished triad. This dilutes the sound slightly and also offers up some more comfortable shapes on the guitar. Here's an example of this in B Locrian. We now understand that Locrian is a nightmare for guitarists and songwriters, but what if there was a way to at least get something useful out of it? Well, you are free to borrow across Locrian chords into other keys and tonalities. This can inject some of the Locrian tension and awkwardness for a brief moment before it is resolved somewhere else. There are so many ways to do this, but one interesting idea is to look to Locrian's closest mode, Phrygian. The only difference we saw between these two is the diminished fifth, found in chords 1, flat 3 and flat 5. Phrygian has its own problems, which I'll explain fully in the video linked at the end of this one. But the main one to be aware of is that it lacks a useful 5 chord. So what we can do is borrow across the flat 5 from Locrian and use it in Phrygian. This adds an interesting tense chord, which can make Phrygian sound more complete. Have a look at it in the next B Phrygian progression, where F major is borrowed across from B Locrian as the flat 5. Listen for how this provides an interesting resolution with the 1 chord, B minor. Locrian is a nasty mode to work with, but its close cousin, Phrygian, can be more forgiving. Watch the video on screen now to unlock the dark power of Phrygian.